That's working a little bit better. I'm going to get started. If you are still having a conversation, if you could either end it or have it in the hallway, that would be much appreciated. We have a very full agenda, which is why I'm being a little ruthless in my starting on time. So thank you all for coming. I hope you enjoyed the dinner. My name is Lauren. I am a Ward 2 steering committee member. Could my other steering committee members in Wards 2 and 3 raise their hands? Again, we have a full agenda, so we're not going to go around and do introductions for everyone. But if you have any questions during the meeting, feel free to ask your local steering committee member. And I encourage you, if there's time in between presentations, to talk to the people at your table if you don't know them. Get to know your neighbors. So the first order of business for today is to adopt our agenda. It is available via QR code, which are on the tables. It's available on our website, and there's also print copies. Can I have a motion to adopt the agenda, please? Thank you, Chris. Can I have a second? Second. Thank you. All right. So with that, let us move into public forum. If you have anything to share, please state your name and ward, and you have a max of 2 minutes. All right. I will let our mayor go first.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Feel like it's the hometown kid moment. Thank you. So I'm Mayor Emma Mulvaney-Stanek. I live in Ward 3, and I wanted to actually come and make a quick announcement that on Sunday, right here at the Old North End Community Center, we're going to do a community cleanup, citywide community cleanup. You're all welcome. We're going to have music and food. We will also have all sorts of bags and gloves and trash picking up kind of tools for folks. And it's going to be, think about it as a early green up. I've always thought that one day of green up is not enough. But it's really our effort as the mayor's office to get out there and give you all an opportunity to plug into community and not quite day one, maybe week-ish one, have a chance to really help us start rebuilding this beautiful city. So I hope you'll come. We'll do more things, including things related to graffiti and whatnot soon enough. But a great way to stay in touch is to sign up for the mayor's email. I have no idea how to do that. I think it's on the website. And be in touch and come visit at City Hall anytime. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Erica.
Is this one good? Hi, I'm Trav Fryer, Ward 2. You've probably heard me make this announcement before. The third Saturday of the month is the Old North End Repair Cafe at 12 North Street. So that's going to be the 20th. And it's a free event. Anything you have that's broken, clothes, anything you can carry in, computers, bicycles, appliances, furniture, anything. We'll fix it or help you fix it yourself. It's really fun, and we're always looking for volunteers. If you don't need any experience, we'll feed you and help you fix things. So it's really fun. It's every month, third Saturday, 12 North Street at Laboratory B. So it's laboratoryb.org/repair cafe for more information, or you can come talk to me. 11 to 3. Oh, sorry.
Thank you. Am I echoing? Any other public forum? Yes. The mic should be on. Hopefully it works. What do you mean? Oh, your name and your ward.
Hi, my name's Evan. I'm from Ward 3. This is my first one of these. I don't really know how these usually go, but oh, thank you. Appreciate it. I just want to talk about, the mayor kind of already covered it, but I was going to talk actually about the graffiti in my neighborhood because it's really bad, and it's covering all these street signs, one of which is for a deaf child, and that's not okay. It's not okay regardless, but it's especially not okay with that. And I feel I've been in Burlington a while now, and I've never seen it look like this before. I can't walk to the bus station without having to look out for needles. There's graffiti everywhere. I saw someone having to spray paint their fence back to the color it was, because people keep tagging it, and it's just not okay. And yeah, that's my piece.
Hi, Mila Grant, Central District City Councilor. In response to those comments, a reminder for the app, see, click, fix. Some of the things aren't fixed right away, but we are getting ready to go into graffiti cleaning season. Nothing's really done during the winter time because the solvents that are used aren't effective in the cold. So see, click, fix for that, see, click, fix for needles, and definitely for any signs like that that you see that are covered that raise a potential risk for people who those signs are meant to help. And hopefully they will respond. You can track your submission on the app and when it's been seen, and then you get notified when something's been completed. But we still, with the graffiti, we're still dealing with some of the blight from the pandemic, regretfully, but hopefully a lot of the new construction that we have happening will help reduce that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public forum? Erica, do you want to go?
Hi, everyone. My name is Erica Faulkner. I live in Ward 2. I use she, her pronouns. I just wanted to give an announcement that the nonprofit I work at, Vermont Natural Resource Council, is doing a community film screening called Wild and Scenic, all about climate and activism, on Thursday, April 18th at 6 p.m. at Main Street Landing. If anyone wants more information, I have little flyers happy to hand out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello again, everybody. I'm Jess Hyman. I live in Ward 2. I use she, her pronouns. I've taken off my apron and put on my official CVOEO vest because I'm changing hats. I wanted to let everyone know that today is a really auspicious day. April 11th, 1968 is when the Fair Housing Act was passed. And this was, yeah, well, we can clap, but it didn't fix everything. And so when the Fair Housing Act was passed, it enshrined into law essential protections to ensure that everyone can have the right to equal opportunity and housing choice, and the right to rent or buy or finance their home free from discrimination or harassment. And there are protections at the federal level as well as at the state level to make sure that we can have equal opportunity in housing. And as we all know so well, especially now, that isn't always the case. We have this incredible housing crisis. There are a lot of people who are really struggling to have safe, affordable, and accessible homes. And so we've got work to do. During April, we like to celebrate the things that are working as well. It's a way to, Fair Housing Month is a way to remind us all that there's still work to do, to raise awareness about the importance of equal access to housing, and to have fun. And so you'll notice on the tables there's some art prompts. I encourage you to take these home, think about what home and community mean to you, and get creative. You can also see a really wonderful art exhibit in the second floor of City Hall that will be there all April. Some great artists from around the region who illustrated what home and community means to them. And there are a whole bunch of other events going on all month. You can go to the CVOEO website or go to fairhousingmonthvt.org. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Jess. I saw, Charlie, did you have, okay.
Hey, everybody. I just want to, Jessica Robbins, Ward 3. I just want to raise attention of a great opportunity at the state right now. The Vermont Tobacco Control Program is looking for youth leaders. They're looking for applicants between grades 6 to 12. The 12 members that are selected, the application's due May 1st, but they will get a stipend up to $1,400 for participating in the youth leadership program. So if you know any amazing youth that want to raise their voice, encourage them to apply. Yeah.
Thank you, Jessie. Any, Charlie?
Okay, so I wanted to say two things. One is a repeat of something I just said 20 minutes ago, but I wanted to make sure it got on the tape. So the first thing is the city's about to clean the streets. So you're going to have to, the last full week of the month, people are going to have to get their cars off the street, just as if it was a snow emergency. So I strongly recommend people go to the city website, look for parking, and it's a little hard to find, but keep looking at parking until you know exactly what zone you live in. Because the Old North End zone doesn't really encompass the entire Old North End. So you don't want to get caught with your vehicle on the street, because it could easily, you could lose your car for a day or two and it'll cost you $150. So I encourage people to go to the city website and look up the day that your street's going to be cleaned. Okay, it's coming up the last week of April. The second thing, I just want to repeat something I said a little earlier, that I was running around on Eclipse Day. I was running around City Hall Park and Church Street trying to get interviews for CCTV, town meeting television. And so basically what I said to everybody that I came into contact with, like, who are you, where are you from, what do you think of the eclipse, and what do you think of Burlington? And so I literally met hundreds of people, because I got over 50 actual interviews. But before I could even stop saying that, people automatically started saying they loved Vermont and they loved Burlington. And it was just overwhelming. Like, I couldn't believe it, person after person. And I literally met, I'm not exaggerating, I spoke to hundreds of people that day, because I worked from 10 o'clock until 5. And I just want to emphasize that when people come here, they think this is a great place. And I think sometimes because of politics and things, people, they forget what a great community this is. So I just wanted to say that. Sorry.
Thank you, Charlie. Is there any other public forum? Yes.
Hi, I'm Sam Powers. I'm your new ward clerk. Yeah, thank you. Yes. Let's actually give it up for the old ward clerk, Charlie. Yes, Charlie. Yes, very, very helpful in the transition. Oh, Ward 3. That's a good point, because it's Ward 2 and 3, thank you. Oh, right, yes, Wendy Coe is definitely much better than me at ward clerking, but I'm getting there. I just wanted to make a quick announcement that we're looking for poll workers. So please, if you're at all interested, it's paid, and it's a cool experience to kind of help out your community and meet a bunch of people in the area. So yeah, thank you so much.
And just a reminder, we have an election in August and November, so I'm sure you need people for both of those. Any other public forum? All right, great. So the first item on our agenda is a presentation from the Richard Kemp Center. Is Christine here? We are running a little ahead of schedule. Is she online? Yes. Okay. What we can do is, Sam, I can actually pass the mic back to you since we're a little ahead, and we can see if Christine is available after your presentation. So if you want to come on up. Do you have anything to share?
Hello. Oh, that's loud. Hi again. I'm also your CDBG representative. Which, if you don't know, CDBG is just the Community Development Block Grant. Every year we get a sum of money from the federal government, from the Department of Housing and Urban Development, to distribute to local projects. So we had about, I think, $600,000 split between both development and public service projects. And I just wanted to kind of talk about the results of our distribution of funds. We get together twice a year just to kind of decide as a team. Each ward has a representative, and then I think there's a state representative as well, and a youth representative, which is pretty cool. And we all kind of decide on which projects we think are most deserving of kind of funds. So I'm just going to list them off really quickly. We fully funded VITA, which is the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program, which is administered by CVOEO. It's pretty cool. They help out a lot of people preparing their taxes, which is like a very kind of, overlooked, thing that really helps people who are strapped for cash. So that's really cool. We partially funded the request from Lund's Residential and Community Treatment Services with $20,000, which is really cool. We partially funded Safe Tonight's request. They're a shelter for survivors of domestic abuse. We partially funded the Vermonters for Criminal Justice Reform Reentry and Recovery Program. We partially funded Housing First Services in Chittenden County, which is run by Pathways Vermont. And then we fully funded a decent number of projects that were under the umbrella of development. We fully funded the Small Business Equity Project for $75,000. We fully funded the Micro Business Development Program with $70,000 as well. We fully funded the Ethan Allen Residence Lighting Upgrade. And we fully funded the addition to the Community Resource Center and Feeding Chittenden with $200,000, which is really cool. And I think we're seeing a presentation from them shortly, so that's cool. And I guess just other news, the city's strategic plan is updating, or the CEDO's strategic plan, I guess I should say, is updating, which will affect kind of the types of programs that are applying and receiving funding. So probably as many or more housing projects will apply, possibly some climate priorities as well as community safety. If you have any more questions about the community development block grant process, feel free to reach out. Yeah, I think that's it. Any questions from the audience? Is that what I call you? The neighborhood? Citizens, that's good. Yes, yes. Residents.
Hi, I'm Liz, she, her pronouns. I'm just curious about the lighting project. Do you all go and talk to BED and find out if they have money to give for something like that? Or do you ask the applicant if they're getting any incentives or looking for, because that kind of project, there's a lot of other money available, so I'm just wondering if you ask.
Yeah, there's a pretty rigorous application process, and need is taken into account. We didn't have that many applicants for development funds this year. We had about $500,000 to give, and we had about $500,000 requested. So we were basically just able to fully fund all of those projects. The public service projects, which receive a lot less money, are the ones that we can only partially fund. So does that answer your question? Okay, great, awesome. Any other questions from anybody? Cool, thank you so much. Yes, have a good night.
Thank you, Sam. I will ask again, is Christine Hughes or someone from the Richard Kemp Center in the audience today? Okay, I'll keep asking. So our next agenda item, I haven't seen Polly yet, but I think I see most of our city councilors. If they feel so moved to start the next agenda item a little bit early, if our 3 city councilors would like to come up.
Hello. Lovely to be here again. Upset I missed the brownies, but that's what happens when you have a day gig. We're so excited. I'm excited. Is it okay to say we're so excited to get to work for this upcoming council year? I think the vibe has already changed, if you know what I mean. So I have faith in the process now. My name is Mila Grant. I am your Central District City Councilor, Wards 2 and 3. I guess what I will talk about are quickly my committee assignments. I am going to continue to be on the Public Safety Committee. I hope to rename it to Community Safety Committee. I will be serving as chair, so I'm going to really have an opportunity to not just talk the talk, but walk the talk, which I wasn't able always to do. But I'm very excited about some things, mainly about educating people about what's going on in our city, especially with regards to our police department and our fire department, our continued attempts to fight the third wave of the drug crisis that we've been dealing with, talking more about the effects of that crisis on quality of life and on individuals who are suffering from SUD and other issues. I felt like during the election season there was a lot of misinformation that was going around, and I want to do my best to make sure. I feel the community at large can be better educated. So I'm going to talk about data, where you can find data, where you can find like how many people does the fire department need, how many people does the police department still need, how many incidents are they responding to. People generally complain a lot about not fully understanding that information, and it is available to you. I'm going to try and make it easier to find by putting it in more places. So I'm also going to be really focused on educating people on the use of Civic Clerk. I am determined that more people use Civic Clerk and adopt meetings to watch or just read the minutes of. I am also back on the licensing committee, liquor commission, and the cannabis commission, and will also be serving on the RAIB committee, the Racial Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging, and I'll be serving as the chair for that. We haven't had any meetings yet, but I've scheduled some, and they will be upcoming. I think that is it for me.
Okay, thanks, Milo. My name is Joe Kane. I am the new Ward 3 City Councilor. A lot of you probably don't recognize me. I came and spoke during public forum in November, I think, at one of these meetings about the apartheid-free community pledge that I was collecting signatures for. I am replacing Joe McGee on council. Joe McGee is now, I think, Director of Communications. I'm not quite sure I have the title right for Emma, so that's really exciting. I will be stepping into, actually, I think, basically Joe's committee assignments. So not only keeping the name, but also keeping the Board of Finance position, the Community Development and Neighborhood Revitalization Committee. I'm excited to work on budget issues in the Board of Finance. We have a budget deficit, and I think that a budget deficit is actually a good opportunity to try to raise new revenues.
And how much is that budget deficit?
Close to $10 million, depending on how you look at it. But the budget deficit, as I was saying, is an opportunity to look for new streams of revenue or to try to expand existing streams of revenue. So we can be, looking at the property tax system and adding an income component, an occupancy component, like the state does with the homestead program to fund the education system. There are a whole bunch of new ways and tweaks to the revenue generation system that I enjoy thinking about. I think CDNR, the Community Development and Neighborhood Revitalization Committee, will be an appropriate place to do some of that work, some of that thinking. I'm also interested in strengthening the NPAs, giving more formal power to the NPAs. I'm interested in issues of democratic process, including publicly funded elections, paying counselors more, the Prop 0 measure, that sort of thing. Giving the public the ability to put binding ballot initiatives forward. So those are, a handful of things that I look forward to working on over the next 2 years. And I really look forward to engaging with this community and getting to know many of you better. So nice to be here.
Thank you, Joe. The beauty of following Joe is that I get to give you the committees that I'm on, and many of them relate to the things that both of my fine colleagues will bring forward. I'm going to be the chair of the Charter Change Committee. The ability for us to do tax reform is in large part based on our ability to change the charter. We have certain amount of control in the city of Burlington, but then we rely on the legislature. A long time ago, I sat on the city council and we passed an anti-speculation tax, and the city and the legislature did not pass that. If we had that, we would be in less trouble than we are now with housing. We would still have issues, but that would have been a good thing. Just cause eviction is stuck there. But my approach, and I've said this for a long time, is that you have to raise the window of possibility. You cannot say people are going to stop you, so therefore we're not going to go there. You have to make them in every way possible, open that window of what's possible. So we will try to do that in the Charter Change Committee, of which I am the chair, knowing full well that there are 2 Democrats who are on that, who are less inclined to push the window as far as I would like to. But that goes back to what Milo and Joe were saying in terms of the involvement of people. And elections matter. And people ignore elections to their peril. And so I think that the other folks on the council understand what we did. And we will act accordingly. What we're talking about in terms of revenue measures are things that Emma talked about. So the resonance between what we as counselors do and what Emma has proposed and will be working on, should be really, really there. Some of the things we have authority to work on, and I'm going to be on the ordinance committee. And if we get back the, well, I was going to say, there is hanging out there also a police oversight charter change that got kicked far down the road to the police commission that hopefully we'll get back. If that were to make it through, changes to ordinances would be in order. There are some things, inclusionary zoning, people are talking about ordinance changes. You have got a new neighborhood code that we approved to increase the density across the city, but there are many, many pieces that still need to be worked on, not the least of which is stormwater, and not the least of which is the affordability. So those are things that are going to be in the ordinance committee. I continue to be a minority of 1 out of 4. We did try to get a 4-member committees so that you would have equality in the conversation. There are reasons that we thought was important to be able to have the equal number of voices, knowing that it's more difficult to pass things out. So there's the trade-off, but not being so partisan. And those were rejected. Elections matter. We did very well in the Old North End. We did well in the Hill section. We did less well elsewhere, and progressives have 5 and the Democrats have 7. So we will work with that political reality and try to get as much as we can through the window as far as we can to have it open. I'm also going to be on the racial justice and racial equity and inclusion and belonging committee. REIB is easier, but it's not so good to just say it like that. And we're going to get a document presented from CEDO around the unified plan. Is that what it is? Or what's the euphemism? Consolidated plan. And if you look at really the first page of detailed information there, you'll see some stark numbers related to housing inequities, particularly racial. And I see the REIB committee as being, as well as the Community and Neighborhood Revitalization Committee, being the place for that. And I am finally continue to be on the Transportation, Energy, and Utility Committee, the TUC, which is the environmental committee. And we have spoken here an awful lot. I have spoken here an awful lot about the work that we've been trying to do at the airport in terms of dealing with emissions, dealing with McNeil, the McNeil resolution on district energy, which I know lots of people did not support. My position, I believe, positions us to do incredibly important work at McNeil, and if we don't do that, then I will look back and say that I have failed and that it was a mistake to go ahead. So I am very, very serious about making sure that all of the commitments to reduce emissions, to increase efficiency, to look for a transition that stops burning stuff that adds to the carbon, so that my grandkids and maybe even their kids can enjoy a planet that is livable for life, for sentient beings, is still there. So there's lots of work, and I just want to end by going back to saying nothing happens without an engaged citizenry, with an engaged people. So I need you to be part of that process. And enough.
So on that note, let's engage our community. Community, do you have any questions for our city councilors?
I just wanted to ask a quick question because I thought I saw on the agenda something talking about the cleanup project. Does that include graffiti?
No, that's a different one. So a graffiti question is perfect for right now.
Okay, so I'm originally from Philadelphia, and I've certainly noticed all the graffiti problems around here. And back in 1984, the city of Philadelphia decided to take some action and establish the Philadelphia Anti-Graffiti Network. And originally it was punitive, lots of fines, kids can't buy spray paint. If you get sentenced, they were sentenced to community service to cover up some of their own graffiti and elsewhere. But it was ultimately merged with the Mural Arts Project. And I would love to see something, so those graffiti artists worked with professional artists to create murals in the communities, and they engaged not only other taggers, but community members in the design and the actual painting of those murals. I believe now there's over 40,000 murals in Philadelphia as a result of that. So I'm wondering, what do you think of such a project in Burlington?
I love that project. I've actually talked about something similar in the past. Before COVID, I would go up to Montreal all the time, and there's parts of Montreal that have these beautiful murals, and they have a graffiti festival, and it's part of their tourism. Like, people come and go to specific areas to see the art. So it's definitely something worth bringing up again. We have a lot of mixed issues that lead to the graffiti problem that we have right now. Prior to COVID, you had construction projects that were approved. Some were languishing, like the pit. You had the old, here's an example, the old YMCA building. When they moved to their new building, it was purchased. Someone was going to make a boutique hotel. Then we had COVID, which stopped that project and many other projects. So when you have abandoned buildings, they are magnets for graffiti. We have Memorial Auditorium. So when you think about where we have the worst graffiti, it's on or very near places that have been abandoned. Not fully abandoned, but there's been no activity, no one's in them, no one's keeping an eye on them. And so we've really it's just been a real symbol of the blight that we have. A lot of these projects are picking up, they're starting, they're moving ahead. That's going to help. And but to your point, it's worth looking into that again, because the people that are doing it aren't always caught, so it isn't always. Right. But I believe if we have a more positive way for people to engage in the artistic aspect, that it could reduce. what we're seeing. Thank you.
So Nina, it's funny that you say that, because there I was walking to a meeting at City Hall, and I think Tom Torty is the head of the Greater Burlington Industrial Corporation. What is Tom? Brian? What? Okay, there's somebody. Who is up there with like? Kathy Davis is her name. Okay, so this was a guy who was involved. Frank Coffee or Coffee? Frank Coffee says hi. I'm by the post office. He stops me, and he's got a complaint about graffiti, and he says to me that, and Frank again is the head of some business.
Greater Burlington Industrial Corporation.
Okay, so like he's got connections to money, and he says to me, we need to do something about graffiti around here, and I would be ready to raise money. And then I go to City Hall to go to this meeting, and there's Doreen Kraft, and I say, well, I just was talking to Frank Coffey, and he says we should do this, and her first response was get me money. And I love Doreen. I've known Doreen for a really long time, but this was a cannot do response. Don't talk to me about it because there's no money for it. So I do think that there is the possibility of, and I think it will be through our committees, maybe it's through a neighborhood revitalization committee, maybe it's the public safety, where we bring somebody like Frank in, people come and ask for us, and we have Doreen there, and we say, and then the committee says, yes, let's try to put together some matching grant, and then you guys raise like $100,000 to deal with graffiti removal, and we'll match 40,000 of it or 30,000. I don't know how those numbers are going to go, but that would be a way that we can do it. There are people who care, who have the resources, and it's a part of our thinking about how we make things happen and trying to make it happen. So I just wanted to share that, because I do think that there are possibilities if we engage in that way and we seize the opportunities that seem to be in front of us.
Thank you.
If I may have a quick follow-up. I neglected to mention there was a paint voucher program which involved, and I don't recall which department in the city, which basically small businesses or businesses around town could request vouchers to get free paint, and they would do their own properties. So that it was kind of a public-private partnership there. The money did come from the city, I believe, though.
Thank you. Great question. And before we move to our next question over here, Polly, if you want to just quickly introduce yourself. So we also are joined by one of our school commissioners. So if you have questions about that as well.
Hi, good evening. I'm Polly Vanderputten, and I'm the Ward 2 school commissioner, and came tonight for this Q&A session not with any particular agenda, but to answer any questions that people might have. I'm sure there's lots to report, but I'm thinking that the time is meant more for community members to ask, so I'm going to leave it at that.
Thank you, Polly, and I'll pass over to you.
Jessie, Ward 3, pronouns are she, her. Jean, this might be one for you on the transport and the something committee. I missed the end of it, sorry. But me and my partner were literally talking today about the fact that we don't have room to store bikes in our apartment. And maybe this has been talked about before. I've only been in the US for a year, so I probably missed this conversation previously. But in East London, where I used to live, we had community bike locks that were on the roads. And when you move into your apartment, you get an email being like, hey, would you like a spot in your community bike lock facility on the road outside your apartment? I wonder if that's ever been a thing, an idea that Burlington's had, because I really want a bike, but I have nowhere to put one. Yeah, that's my question.
Again, these things are serendipitous, but maybe it's because we're working. So last night we had a meeting here. It was actually very poorly attended, which proves that we have to do a much better job of engagement. But it was about transportation options. And one of the ideas relates to these transportation hubs, places around our community where transportation is facilitated. So something like a bike locker or something that's enclosed, something that is safe, something that your bike's not going to be destroyed by the weather or vandalized. And the planning department, Charles Dillard in specific, is doing a major study and an outreach related to, among other things, where and what we could have for transportation hubs in wards 2 and 3. And so I think it would be wonderful for you to email me that request that I can pass on to them, and that anybody else, including like where it could be, because that's what we need. We were trying to get some lockers, not for bikes, but some lockers in the parking garage for this food program, I think, the mutual aid program in relationship to homeless people and food distribution, and getting a little bit of bureaucratic pushback from DPW on that. And I say that because there are things that we've got to work through, but the ideas of what could be where should just flow, and people can email me that. And so gbergman@burlingtonvt.gov, and I can give you, and then we'll start to push that. And to the extent to which I'm not really in favor of waiting until we get this perfect idea. If we can get these little pilot projects started or meet people's needs, I'd like to do that if we can do that. So yeah.
Thank you. And just to note that all of our elected officials' emails are in our meeting minutes, but we'll be sure to include Councilor Bergman's as well. Yes, and they're on the tables as well.
Can I add something to that? I'm not on the city council at all, but I hear what you're saying. In northern Germany, the school where I work has an exchange program with a high school in northern Germany, and the teacher I was hosted by last winter does not own a car. So we biked everywhere, and there is one of these bike lockers. I think it's similar to what you're talking about in East London, which is like, it looks like a big trailer truck kind of thing, but you have a badge, and that opens the door. And then you have these double layer places where you can put your bike and lock your bike, and then the badge is further security for it. This bike locker was in a little parking lot, not on, I'm just thinking about the old north end of Burlington and how a lot of properties, it's either like green strip or private property, and that would be a hard sell. But there are also parking lots to consider where it wouldn't take up a ton of space or inhibit more than, say, one car's worth of parking that would add this and kind of create this positive feedback loop, I hope, with the biking in this city. So that's just an observation. It worked great, and the residents who had the spot there either paid rent for it or it was included in their rent, and they used the badge to get in and out.
Well, if my school commissioner sends me an email, I would pass that on in addition to that one as greater support for this. And the details, if there was a picture that you took serendipitously, like as you weren't thinking about doing this then, right, then that would be great. So then we can see how much it would take, because like we have tried to get parking, shared parking at the Hinsdale lot, where the old Fastest Bakery, for those of you who go way back, as where Channel 17 is. And there are these huge parking lots that we've been trying to get them to do shared parking, and they've been like, no, it's private. He's got the right to say that. And so, but perhaps a small space for a shared locker would be helpful and good, and so that would be great.
Thank you. We probably have time for one or two more questions.
Thanks. I was just going to riff off of what Jean was saying. So at this meeting last night about the mobility hubs, one of the things the city planner said was that partnerships are starting to form, like Old Spokes Home is partnering with AALD to talk about transportation demand management and all these jargony words. But that when city officials go and ask businesses to use their parking lots, it isn't working. But if organizations like Old Spokes Home or ALV went to Jacob, it might make a big difference. And if residents got involved in asking those property owners about it, it might make a big difference.
Any other questions?
So I've got one.
Yeah, go ahead, Charlie.
Okay, so a quick one. So last year we were talking about the this huge sculpture that was going to be in the park across the street from the Wheeler School, the Integrated Arts Academy. Whatever happened, does anybody in the room know what happened to that project, that particular sculpture? I'm assuming they're putting it somewhere.
I have not been over there. My understanding was on the first, the foundation was supposed to start being worked on. It is proceeding the next few months. Has anyone seen any work over there? Well, I'm going to walk by after, pancake breakfast at the Sustainability Academy is on Saturday. Just want to remind everybody of that. So after I have some pancakes, I'll walk over to Dewey Park, see if there's been any construction. There is a website. If anyone needs the link, please send me an email, and I'll send it to you. But that was the latest update, was that April 1st, the foundation work was supposed to start.
See, I wasn't even aware that where they had finally decided to put it, that sculpture. My understanding was they were going to reconsider because of the farmers market there.
No,
I guess
the
not.
farmers market was talked to a while ago. Last December, there was a meeting that, here, in fact, during one of the NPAs that talked through all of that, and there was a representative from the farmers market here, so they had been clued in to that. And I think some of the initial issue was there was confusion between the multiple departments that were working on the project. One department was responsible for communication with the neighborhood, and that was not done well, and that was discussed at length. There was also the initial picture, which was meant to focus on the sculpture itself, was very much out of scale with the park, and that alarmed people because it made it look like it was going to be much bigger, like bigger than the park, quite frankly. So then there were new photos that were at scale. So, but that is,
No?
anyone who needs the link, just let me know, and I can send it to you. But it is a website that's updated quarterly, and they might be doing more updates now that the construction's starting.
All right, thank you. We have about 5 minutes left, and I saw 3 questions, so we're going to do our best.
Charlie, there was also some infrastructure work that needed to be done with the utilities around there. So that was another complication that they had.
Okay. Actually, I had one thing for the school, a school question. So I've been hearing a lot about RIF. So a reduction in force or reduction in faculty. So it sounds like the school faculty is being reduced. Is that going to have some effect on the direct instruction of students in Burlington?
So at our last meeting, there was a formal, what's the word? I'm trying to think of the correct terminology, but kind of like a formal protest from the Burlington Educators Association about the reduction in force, RIF, of a 1.0 math teacher position at the high school. And the math teachers had come to the previous meeting. They were incredibly eloquent about the work that they have been doing with students. We as board members were assured that this RIF does not change the offerings for students, that we are not going to see a major increase in class sizes, that the teacher, people often put a human face on these, as they should, that the teacher who is being RIFed, so that would be something to do with seniority according to the contract, will have a position at another school in the district. So there were a lot of questions about the format, and it's honestly kind of difficult to understand. They talked about math labs and how these math labs had been created to help struggling students, and students were helping as tutors, and students spoke in a really impassioned way about it, but we were told that this particular RIF is not going to affect math labs or math offerings in any way, and that it's just a way to do a more responsible kind of form of budgeting as we see decreasing enrollment. So I'm sure somewhere in between what we are told and what is happening lies the truth. I'm a public school teacher, so I know that these RIFs have a serious effect on people, and at the same time, they will adapt, and the students will not be enormously negatively impacted by it. I wish we could afford everything.
Thank you. So I saw 2 more questions, so in the last few minutes, if we could get those last 2 questions in.
I have a question and an update. There has been no construction. I work at IAA. The park is where I eat my lunch if it's nice out. They're doing a bunch of construction on the playground fields, so I hope they don't do construction at the park as well, because it's just construction everywhere and it's not nice. I wish they could wait till next year when there's no school there. But my question is, you mentioned outreach about meetings. I'm curious where the best place to find out about like a meeting like last night's meeting would be. Like, I didn't know about last night's meeting, so where would be the best place to like keep track of all the meetings of Burlington? I'm not the best at checking my email.
Yeah. So in terms of last night, the focus was really on the neighborhood bounded by Willard and Riverside and North and Elmwood. So you would not have seen that. We did some targeted flyering. I went around with staff and do that. And then there were a couple of efforts through Front Porch Forum. But so that is a place to look at, but in truth, and this was done by the planning office, this was their meeting, they really did not do an energetic job. And so it really does depend on the particular thing. I think that Front Porch Forum seems to me to be the avenue of most frequent and comprehensive outreach that we're doing on a community level, where it's more like proactive on that. So that if you're not on Front Porch Forum, that would be something which I think would be a good thing. And we're definitely going to try to do a better job, but we're not doing as good a job as we should.
Thank you. And last question.
Actually, could I quickly add to that? So Front Porch Forum is the minimum, and it's just, I wish there were, I have some ideas that I won't go into, but overall, the city and organizations that work for and with the city need to do a better job, as Jean just said, about outreach. But Civic Clerk and the city's website is the best place to go to look for all the variety, the city council meetings, the various committees and commission meetings. You go City of Burlington's website, you click on calendar at the top, and it shows an actual calendar, which is a major improvement. So you'll see the month and you can see what's been scheduled. You can go back to previous months if you want to look at older meetings, and you just click on the meeting that you want, and you'll now be taken directly to that meeting, where they're adding the links to the meetings as well, so you can watch them. But otherwise, you can just look at the agenda, read the minutes. Even if you're just reading the minutes, that will help keep you informed of what's going on and what projects are going on. Neighborhood Code actually had a tremendous amount of outreach, and still people felt like it came out of nowhere. But and I complained a lot about the lack of outreach. This had a lot of outreach, but people weren't looking. We have to look in a way that we're not used to. Thank you.
For the recording and anyone online.
Sorry. People are like really active. I don't know if this is even a protected place. I don't even think
I'm
it would
on
get
there.
people on there.
I read there. I do some responses. I actually thought about doing an AMA.
Oh.
And I did get some encouragement. And I feel like if I do an AMA, then I have to make people promise to be good.
Yeah.
And
maybe
if they're
not
good,
like-
no. But if they're good, I'll do a roast me.
Oh my
so
gosh.
then it would be like a reward for people to be really good during the AMA. Be like really serious with your questions, and I'll give you serious answers, and then I'll let you do a roast me. So
I guess I more meant that I think more people would see a meeting on Reddit than see a meeting on Front Porch Forum, especially young people, because I know all my friends see what's on Reddit, even though it's like a lot of goofy stuff. They see it. They don't see Front Porch Forum.
There is indeed plenty of legitimate conversation on Reddit, and I am in there, and I am reading what people are saying about public safety. I'm reading about what people are saying about all the activities that Burlington had for the clips and all the wonderful things that were said. I'm reading about those photos of kids that are being put up everywhere. That was really, that's very interesting. I will post about the upcoming city council meeting this weekend.
And I'll know about it.
Thank you. Okay, so in the last minute, we have one more question before I get to your question. I just want to highlight that if you didn't get your question answered today, all of our elected officials' emails are in the meeting minutes. Also, they're all very friendly people. Feel free to approach them. That's what they're here for.
My question overlaps from earlier in the conversation. I still want to ask it, but pieces have been answered, but I don't know which pieces haven't been answered. So it was about the sculpture in the park. So I'm just, and the brouhaha in the past, which parts of the brouhaha got addressed or solved, or which parts are left, and and what's the status now? Whichever pieces you know, or where to go look for that status. Thanks.
Sure, there is a website that the REIB department created just to keep people updated, and they were doing quarterly updates. Racial equity, inclusion, and belonging. And yes, but it's not directly linked from the city's website, which is annoying. So I have the link, but I just don't remember what it is. But if you send me an email, try. Yeah, try and Google REIB Embrace and Belonging Sculpture. See what comes up. But the last update was done in March, and it did say that the foundation work was supposed to start on April 1st. So I will try and get it. I have a committee meeting coming up.
Was it a design that had less public negative response?
It is the same design. I support this project, and I know we don't have a lot of time left right now, but I'd be happy to talk to anyone about it that has any questions.
All right, thank you, everyone. And again, Milo, maybe if we can put the link to the website in the meeting minutes, we'll make sure that's included and any further questions. But thank you to our elected officials. This was a great conversation. I'm glad we had a little bit of extra time for it. All right. Real quick before our next presenter, I just want to highlight, I didn't see Christine from the Richard Kemp Center, but they did want to present today about a trip that they are doing in April. They are looking for help fundraising. The trip is to the National Museum of African American History and Culture. It's a 4-day trip, and the participants pay very little. So that's why they're looking for the fundraising to help people get to this museum and experience that. So if you need more information, we'll try and include some of that in the meeting minutes, but I just wanted to uplift that since they weren't able to make it tonight. So with that, we have a presentation from one of our neighbors next about some efforts that she has been doing within her block, and hopefully they will inspire you to do the same within yours.
Okay. My name is Lisa Schofield. I live on the corner of Decatur and North Winooski. And I would like to start a lending toolkit for cleaning up, if you want to, your street. I have to say that I was having bad thoughts about the litter that I was seeing, and I increasingly thought, you know, what can I do about this? And then I saw a woman picking up trash near the waterfront with one of these. So I went to Homeport and I bought all that they have, and they promised me that they put in a big order of these. But I would like to give out today to people who would like to try them out. I'm telling you, it has changed my life. I feel joy now when I go outside. And I have also experienced personal growth, because when I started this, I said, I'm not going to pick up those doggy bags, poop bags. But when I saw one on right near a sacred place like Barrios, I just had to pick it up. So now I don't feel any compunction about picking up anything. So I'd like to give out 4 of these. This one is a little cheesy. It's from Walmart. But as I say, this is a really splendid one, and you can actually pick up waste without breaking your stride. So it's a lot of fun. My name is Lisa Schofield, and if you have a really trashy area that you don't think you can do by yourself, you can just call on me, and I'll be there, and I'll help you out. So could I have 4 people who would like to try it tonight? Would you like to try it? And if you would just put your name and phone number, I'll be back next week, and we'll see how it goes. Because picking up trash is not for everybody, I know that, but I'm into it. So I would like to spread this joy. Is there anybody else?
Thank you, Lisa.
So are you aware of the mayor was here earlier and told us about a cleanup that's going to start at this building?
But you can start right now.
Okay, I'm just saying that if you don't have anyone to give those to tonight, if you come back Saturday at 10 o'clock in the morning, I think?
Sunday.
Oh, Sunday. So Sunday in this room, there's going to be like 50 people who might be able to put those to use.
And also can be inspired to keep using them. All right. Well, if there's are there any questions for Lisa? It's very important to say thank you. Thank you, Lisa. All right, so I'm gonna get set up for the next part of our agenda, which is the discussion and voting for our NPA funds. So one thing I will note as I am starting this conversation is that there should be we have paper surveys for the vote as well as an online survey. There are QR codes, right, to scan for do we have QR codes? So we have paper forms. That we'll be doing. But how I'll structure this, we have 20 minutes for this. I'd like to leave 10 minutes for quiet voting. This is a ward-specific conversation, so we do have surveys for each ward, so wards 2 and ward 3. So I'll spend about 5 minutes quickly going over what the steering committee is proposing, leave about 5 minutes for questions, and then we'll leave about 10 minutes to ensure that you have enough time, and you can, if you have any questions to ask a steering committee member separately, you may do that as well. So that said, I have to use Zoom, which should work. I need my phone. All right. I'll zoom in on this. And I'm just going to quickly go through this right now and highlight what we are proposing. So the first thing that I would like to highlight is that each ward gets $2,500 from the city to support the function of the NPA. I want to highlight that the function of the NPA is important here. The city has guidelines for how the NPA should be spending this money, and we are putting a renewed focus on following the guidelines as put out by the city. These funds must be used by the end of the fiscal year or by June 30th. So that is why we are voting tonight, because we want to ensure that we have enough time to vote on all of these. So we decided to draw up a funding proposal as a steering committee, and you'll have the option to vote on each section, whether you'd like to completely support that or partially support or not support that as a or as an NPA member. So as you can see on the screen, which I will zoom in, I am not the most Zoom competent person, so everyone needs to bear with me a little bit. Hopefully that's a little bit clear, and you can feel free to come closer to me if you can't see it. We have broken the funds into 4 different sections, and we've also broken it into what Ward 2 is contributing and Ward 3. So the 4 sections are the community dinner, which I know we all know and love, outreach, rooms and facilities, and meeting support. So I'll start with the community dinner. There are a few items on here that would help to allow our community dinner team to better prepare the dinners for us. One of those is a food processor, and then bus trays, aprons, silverware, and also we did put in some dinner support here as well. I'm not going to go through all the numbers on this. The big thing we want to talk about that we'll be focusing with these funds is outreach. That's something that the steering committee has talked a lot about. So we want to ensure that we're reaching all of the residents in our wards and that they know about the NPA and that they can attend it. So we are proposing to do this by a few different ways. One is with a direct mailer to ward residents. Another is with new lawn signs. We, as we all know, have been in redistricted wards recently, so we do need to update our lawn signs. Tabling materials is another thing, so we can be out in the public and talking about the NPAs, as well as kind of building off that, having listening sessions with NPA members outside the scope of the NPA meeting. Another thing is an ad in the North Avenue News. This is more so for Ward 2 than Ward 3. And then finally, posters. I know many of you saw the posters from before. They need to be updated because the boundary lines have changed. The next section is room and facilities. So we have a lovely kids section in the back that I'm sure most of you know about. And there are arts and crafts there, so we want to ensure we're supporting that for our smaller residents. And then finally, meeting support. So we do pay a Zoom subscription, so we can ensure that people can attend whether they can come here or not. And I'm sure, hopefully, all of you have won a raffle prize at some point, but we do need funding to support those raffle prizes. So I flew through that, and I know you are looking at the surveys as we speak. Are there any questions? The NPA members are floating around the room. You probably recognize most of us, and I see questions happening now, but are there any questions for the larger group?
Just why is Ward 2 fully funding the North Avenue News thing? And I wonder if it's just split up between the 2 wards, because I see Ward 3's funding something else later.
I believe, and I am not sure, I don't see Chris, I believe the decision for the North Avenue News was because North Avenue is almost 100% in Ward 2. Yeah. Any other questions for the larger group?
Oh, okay. Okay. I was just wondering, is it too late to fill this out online?
Great question. You can fill it out online, but we will be voting within the confines of this meeting. So you can fill it out online. We can provide the link for that if you or anyone is interested, but it still must be done within the confines of this meeting time. Do you want us to get you the link for that? So I believe that Ward 3 will be breaking into discussion if you are interested in a discussion as a Ward 3 resident. For Ward 2 residents, if you have any questions or would like to have a discussion as well, the Ward 2 steering committee is also happy to entertain that. And if you have them complete, just like raise your paper so I don't think you have a question and I'll come get it. If anyone wants to do it on the phone, we have a QR code as well. You can come up and see Jesse over here. And just an FYI, we'll keep the voting open until for about 10 minutes or until everybody looks really restless. For those online, we will put the link to the different surveys in the chat. For those online, I will say how we'll do it in a minute. Fosca and I will get you the link to the survey. And for those I'm gonna stop sharing my screen to get that link, but if anyone has questions about the line item, you can feel free to come up to me or another steering committee member. Are there any questions? If anyone wants to hand in their survey, just wave it in the air and I can run around like the Energizer Bunny and get it. And for those of you online, we have put the links to the surveys, depending on your ward, in the Q&A. So those online can access it via Q&A. For those still pondering, I'll give a 5-minute warning, and if you're done, you can 7 minutes. Thank you. If you're done, you can either wave it in the air or bring it up to this table right up here in the front. The lovely lady in the green dress can take it from you. For those who still have a survey, if you have not handed it in, feel free to wave it in the air or walk it over to me. Does anyone still have a survey? All right. I do not see anyone filling out a paper survey. Is there anyone that I missed filling out a paper survey? Okay. As a reminder, if you're filling out online, you must complete it, please, as soon as possible. We will announce it at the end of this meeting. But with that said, since it appears that everyone is done, we can move on to our next presentation, which is on the expansion of the Feeding Chittenden building. Is there I don't see a name. Is there a representative that will speak to that? I see someone is being pointed at. Okay, so Fosca is gonna, it's easier, yeah. And do we have an extra mic? Are you guys?
Are we ready? Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Amy Demetriou with the Champlain Housing Trust. And it was about 30 years ago that we worked with CVOEO to build the food shelf over on North Winooski Avenue. And we actually used the funding that Sam was talking about, CDBG funds back then, and he talked about how we now have a new allocation for this renovation. So that building is busting at the seams. The folks from CVOEO are going to talk about what's happening inside the building, and then Sam and Eli are going to present what our plans are for expansion.
Thanks, Amy. Hi, everybody. Paul Dragon, I'm with CVOEO. There's really two parts to the Feeding Chittenden building now. One is the Community Resource Center, and then there's the market. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Community Resource Center. They are connected because Feeding Chittenden provides food at the Resource Center. I want to talk a little bit about the evolution there. First, I want to thank the city and CEDO for sponsoring and providing CDBG funds for the expansion of the Community Resource Center. And the building, this phase 2 renovation, is going to be done with some federally funded dollars. It's going to be done with some Argosy funds, and it's going to be done with great thanks to the King Street Neighborhood Development Corporation, right? And that's out of their zone. They're in the South End. They recognize the importance of this building and the service. So just a few things. We started the Community Resource Center as a place at the beginning of COVID for people experiencing homelessness. And we started out at the VFW with some city funding and with some donations. The VFW building had morphed into something else. It was temporary. So one of our programs, Feeding Chittenden, we found a permanent host there for the Community Resource Center, and we've been there now for almost 2 years. If it's okay, I just want to let you know the importance of the place with some data. So the Community Resource Center, which is on the bottom floor, right? We're looking at expanding up, but right now it's on the bottom floor. It's kind of a big open space with a dining room that we've enhanced. It's got a great culinary kitchen that Rob can talk a little bit about. But we've served 3,000 unique individuals there last year. 29,000 different services. There's only been 3 days since we've had the Resource Center in 19 or 20 months where there hasn't been a new person coming in for service. So this is a very open, a very accessible place. About half the people that go to the Resource Center are not stably housed. No, 65% are not stably housed, and 35% of the people who come to the Community Resource Center are completely unsheltered, right? They're not in a shelter, they're living outside. We do a whole host of different services there, a tremendous meal service done by primarily our cooking program, the Culinary Kitchen Academy, hot meals in the morning, but we also do a lot around having people access identification so they can be more integrated into the community. Just a couple of examples. We helped people 158 times last year with a photo ID. People didn't have a photo ID, and you can't do a lot. 30 times with a birth certificate, and then a number of other things. We provide a lot of connected services there as well with some of our community partners. It's a drop-in center where people can get resources. We did get 56 people into permanent or temporary shelter, which is pretty amazing. And we have a great synergy with our partners, CHT, at the Elmwood shelter, because we also have staffing there, and we've referred people and placed people over there as well. There's still, so primarily we're seeing people experiencing homelessness, right? Mostly unsheltered, or 35% unsheltered, the others in shelter, the rest unstably housed. And we see a lot of disparities in the population for people experiencing homelessness. So just an example, I think Burlington is approximately 5% Black or African American. At the CRC, that number is 13%. 4 to 5% of our clients are Hispanic. I think that's over double the 2% Hispanic population in Burlington. This is astounding to me because it says something about our society, I think. 30% of the clients we see, again, mainly people who are homeless, are 55 and older. That's 30%. And 15% are 62 and older. We're seeing an aging population of people experiencing homelessness. And we average 121 people a day there. On the highest day, we had 189 people come to the Community Resource Center. You know the issue of unsheltered homelessness as well as we do in Burlington. We've given out 120 tents just in the last few months, and a bunch of other services, including bicycles and other things. So the second floor that Sam and Amy are going to talk about is to bring our staff back, because when we opened this at the beginning of COVID, there was an overwhelming need for people. Rob moved his staff out of there, and they've had no place to go. They've primarily been working from home. So with the second floor, we're going to bring the staff back, which will provide more support for that building. There's going to be some conference and office space as well. And then there's going to be an expansion of the Community Resource Center so we can get a few more tables in and a lot of updates that Sam can talk about. And it's going to be more trauma-informed and in a nicer space for people. And it's already very nice. So with that, I'm going to have Rob talk a little bit about the market.
Thanks, Paul. It's great. Hi, everyone. My name is Rob Meehan. I'm the director at Feeding Chittenden. I've been there since '07 after the great Wanda Hines moved on to help you all city. We've got just an amazing partner with Champlain Housing Trust that is really the reason we're here tonight, because we're able to finally make this move to make this addition on this building that desperately needs it in the Old North End. As Paul mentioned, we serve a lot of folks in Burlington. About 5,600 people come to the food shelf from Burlington proper. There's twice as many that we serve throughout Chittenden County. We're growing into Addison, Franklin, and Grand Isle counties as well, and looking at a lot of our expansive work online. You can learn a lot about us at our website, feedingchittenden.org, and we can answer any questions. But it's really the support of this community that's been your food shelf for 50 years now. We're celebrating 50 years this year. There's many people that came before us who were trying to continue to carry that torch and help people that experience food insecurity. Lastly, we believe that food is a human right, and that's what we're working to let others know. That this is really justice work. This intersection of justice and compassion is the spirit of Burlington. Thank you all so much. I'm going to pass it over to Sam, who is our architect working with Duncan Wisniewski. And first, I don't know, Amy, if you wanted to say anything else.
Here you go, Sam. I'll only ask, should we move out of the way so that you can see the screen better?
Can everybody see the screen okay? Okay. My name is Sam Beal. I'm with Duncan Wisniewski Architecture. I'm here with Eli Marosher. And what you see up in front of you right here is the existing condition site plan. And so everybody's familiar with the site. We've got North Winooski intersecting with Decatur and with North Union Street. It's an awkward intersection. And currently the curb cut intersects with that intersection in a way that's not terribly safe. And so one of the major things we're trying to do with the site plan, can you go to the next slide, please? Is actually shift that curb cut south. And it allows us to do several things. One, it allows us to make the parking lot much more efficient. So we get more parking, less paving. We open up green space adjacent to the entrance so that folks, as they're waiting or queuing for services, can be adjacent to green space instead of next to a parking lot. We've got new bike parking, and we've opened up some permeable surface there to help treat that storm water. So it's a big win. It was a big risk, and we weren't sure how the city would see it. We've had a meeting this morning with the technical review committee with the city, and early returns are positive that they see this as a positive shift with the curb cut shifting. So curious to hear if any neighbors have any questions about that after we finish our presentation, because that's the biggest move, I think, on the site. The dark gray box is the amount of the addition. So we're basically building a 2-story addition on the front of the building. So right now, the building is set back from the street, and when we're done, we'll be right up close to the sidewalk. Can you go to the next slide, please? So this is just a rough existing condition plan. You can see the commercial kitchen in the center. The back is most of Rob's operations, food storage, as well as the market. We have a limited amount of office space and conference room in the bottom left. And so go to the next slide, please. This shows both the first floor plan and a partial second floor plan. And so we are going to be extending that dining space. The left side shows you the first floor. We're going to extend that dining space and make it a little bit more graceful in there and allow more people to eat their meals. Right now, it's a pretty busy place. If you've ever been there on a morning when we're serving, it's very, it can be very congested. And down to the left, we have open up another, what we're calling a classroom, but essentially an ancillary program space that will be used flexibly. Upstairs, we have 2 shared workspaces, a meeting room, 2 offices. I think Rob's office is going to have a nice window, I hope. And we've got a bathroom and a copy space. So this is the plan. So go to the next slide. So these are building elevations illustrating in 2 dimensions how we're adding on. They're a little bit hard to read. We'll end with a perspective. But before I go there, you're probably familiar with the work that Abby Manick did to paint the siding recently. That's what the color block is that you can see in the middle drawing. We took a lot of inspiration from Abby's work and tried to populate some of those colors throughout the addition. So last slide is the perspective. So this is what we hope the new building will look like, provided we can marshal the resources and get the cost estimate online. But the idea being that we have this graceful colonnade so that people can wait undercover before they enter the building. And again, using that, the artist's work to inspire some of the colors as we come around. So I want to be respectful of time and leave time for questions.
We have about 10 minutes for questions, and I see one in the back.
So I go on that intersection like a lot. And you've got a bus stop there. You've got the bike path on Union Street merges there. We'll forget the terrible pavement that occurs right there. You've got that really funky go across. For me, I am going to like the Boys and Girls Club area where I live, and so I go down Decatur Street. So I'm really curious. I'm very supportive of this, but trying to understand the circulation, how cars are going to come out when people are riding their bikes. The bike lane is on that side of the road. Yeah, you get the picture.
I'm an architect, not a civil engineer, but I can pretend. Can we go back to the proposed site plan for a sec? Perfect. Oh, no, one slide down. Sorry. Yes. So one thing I should have mentioned is this is going to mean that all traffic coming to the food shelf feeding Champlain Valley will be coming north on the one-way North Union Street. And so one of the challenges with this reconfiguration is that some naughty drivers may be tempted to short circuit that and come through the 5-way intersection. We hope with signage and with education that we can allay those concerns, but that is a concern that we've shared. Unfortunately, this 5-way intersection has always been unsafe, particularly for cyclists and pedestrians. So from talking through with DPW, we all feel like this will be safer. It's not safest, but in terms of how bikes will move, I'm not I can't entirely speak to that. I don't, I am a cyclist as well, but I don't know exactly how that's going to work because it's not showing on the plan yet. But it's a good thing to think about.
Get curb cuts so that people can't go from, cut the corner, so to speak?
Yeah.
How is it? Or curbs, actually,
Yes.
not curb cuts, curbs.
There will be curbs, and we will have signage to hopefully tell people not to do that. But I mean, there's very little we can do in the right-of-way or in the street to stop people from turning, because the cars still need to be able to come through the other direction, right? As far as the bus stop, I should have mentioned that. It's currently right where the new curb cut will go. We've communicated that with Green Mountain Transit, and provided we build them a new slab to move the shelter, they're happy to move it to the south. So it doesn't shift far, it's like 20 feet.
To the south?
To the
You'd move it,
south.
continue to go south?
Yes.
On there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. You got it with the mouse.
Any other questions? Yes.
I totally support what you're doing. I live in the blue house right across from the shelter, and I'm concerned about the landscaping. I was wondering if you could hire a landscaper who would not use a leaf blower. There's a lot of noise coming from that, and most importantly, there's a lot of dust. I think they come weekly or every other week, and it just adds to the cacophony in that area. I would be happy to bring my push broom and sweep up or rake. If you could just kind of hire someone who would be more in tune with that. And also if you would do the no mow May thing, not mow during the May. And I would be happy to work on with that with you, but it's just like one more thing for that very busy, noisy, dusty corner.
I totally appreciate that, and I will pass that on to our property maintenance department who manages that. That's really good feedback.
Thank you. Any other questions? And I should ask if there are any questions online as well. Are there any questions in the room or online? Raise your hand either way. Oh, yeah. It's still on.
Sounds great. I guess the only thing I was thinking about is I did appreciate, although during the last COVID years, there's that space where there has been gardens. Is there going to be another way for those gardens to move to another spot on the site? Because I thought it was kind of a nice idea, feeding Chittenden the ground.
We don't disagree, and what you can see in the rendering here is we've started to show some perennials in that opened up green space in front there. We've talked about potentially doing some planters as part of that work, but we haven't engaged a landscape architect yet, so we're not entirely sure, but it's good feedback.
So
I have a
if
quick
you,
question.
if you got all your funding, what does your timeline look like? And where would you relocate to, if you haven't already answered that, during the construction?
We are pretty close to having all of our funding in hand. Some of it, as Paul was saying, is federal funds that come with certain restrictions that might take some time to get through. But we're hoping that we're going to be under construction this fall. And the expectation is that they will continue to be operational while we build the addition up front. We won't cut through that wall, right? The exterior wall that's there now. We'll build an addition outside of that wall, and when the addition is complete, then we'll cut through and combine the spaces. So there might be some time, a few weeks, where things have to be shut down, but mostly we're expecting to keep it operational.
Thank you. Any other questions in the last couple minutes?
So I'm just curious about your long-term funding. So there are a lot of projects going on in Burlington, and yet the mayor's office and the city council tell us that they're strapped for funds at this time. So how does it look for your future for these projects, long-term?
Yeah, sure. So this is always a question. Every fall we get on the treadmill and we ask for help and we raise funds. That's something we've been doing for 50 years. We now have a development team that's grown substantially at CVOEO, who are professionals and really cool people. But yeah, that's a great question. How are we going to do it? How we've done it is because Vermonters, and specifically Chittenden County and Burlington residents, have done it. And so this is truly a grassroots organization, more than any that I've experienced before. We have a really well-rounded pyramid of donors. So at the bottom, you see people that are giving $10 or $5, to the top where people are giving lots and lots of dollars. So it's a healthy pyramid to do what we're doing food-wise. And when we're talking about food, we're talking 2 million pounds of food going to about 12,000 people in a variety of ways. So to your point, there's fleets of vehicles, there's 19 staff people. Again, a lot of us are displaced at the moment. But there's foundations, there's major donor work, there's annual fund work, there's marketing, there's public relations. But underneath all of that, again, is a belief that food is a human right and that we need to make sure that everyone has access to food. More so, we want to make sure that food is food that's culturally relevant, that's specific for medical needs, that's helping children, that's helping seniors. And so I think it's not only finding the money, but finding the resources and supports of the programming that makes us the most impactful that we can be. And I'm really proud of the people I work with, and I think they generate revenue as well as anyone. So I'll pass it to Paul for more than just food.
Yeah, Feeding Chittenden is 85 to 90% donations, and it's amazing. It's close to $2 million a year to get food out to all these people. It's incredible. The Community Resource Center, where we have housing advocates doing very specific work for people experiencing homelessness, we've been going 1 year funding since we started, and it looks like out of the we have 5.5 FTEs, housing advocates, and we have funding secured for one for after October 31st of this year. So we're going to continue to look for state, city, federal dollars to keep this work going. But I got to tell you, quite honestly, it's like all the work we do. We have to continually puzzle and put things together. But I can't sit here and tell you that the Community Resource Center will have the same 5.5 staff come November 1st. It's the work that we're doing right now to try to secure that.
All right, I think that is all we have time for. Thank you to our presenters, and thank you to our attendees for asking questions. If there's any further questions, we will include some information in the meeting minutes, and you can always reach out, or you can reach out to us and we can put you in contact with the right people. So our final presentation this evening will be from the Department of Public Works, talking about a water line assessment. So there's some.
Hi, thanks for having me tonight. I'm Martin Lee, Water Resources Engineering Manager at the Water Resources Department at the city. I'm here to talk about the lead service line inventory. So I can probably keep this presentation pretty short, but if I go over anything too quickly, we can talk about it at the end if you have any questions. I also put some handouts on the tables. There's a trifold with project information. There's a handout with information about how to do the inventory in your own house, because a big part of this outreach that we're doing is getting people aware of the project so that you can help in the community to do the inventory in your own basement. It's pretty simple, and we can talk a little bit more about that. So the first slide is about a little history about the lead and copper rule. The EPA put together. So in the 1980s, lead risk in houses became more at the forefront of people's minds, and the Safe Drinking Water Act was amended in 1986. This was to ban lead pipes, but it did not require retroactively removing pipes from anyone's system. And then in 1991, the EPA lead and copper rule established maximum contaminant levels for lead and copper. Can you go to the next slide, please? So what Burlington did during that time frame was kind of react, I think, probably a little bit ahead of what was happening, the EPA regulations. In 1982, Burlington started conducting samples for lead and other contaminants. There were 6 sites in the community that found elevated lead levels. Burlington water is naturally corrosive, so that is something that doesn't help. If you have any sort of lead in the system, that's going to go into the water, and then that's what was tested and found. But since the 80s, we started to treat the corrosive water, and it was the early 90s when zinc orthophosphate was used, and this is a common drinking water corrosion inhibitor. And since that treatment that's still in place has been used, we've been in compliance with the lead and copper rule levels. We do regular testing. Next slide. So that brings us to today, really. And you know, we've had other communities around the country where lead has been a major concern, and you know, that might be one of the reasons why EPA is now making another revision to the rules. And it's just another step to protect the public from lead exposure. The requirement is for all local and state water utilities to submit inventories, and that's what we're working on. We need to identify lead service lines to be replaced, as well as galvanized lines needing replacement, and this needs to be done by October 16th of this year. The Burlington annual reports, when we look way back, there was a period of time when they listed pipes as galvanized, cast iron, and lead from 1929 to 1937. After 1937, lead was no longer listed. With that information, we don't have any records of actual lead pipes in our system from all the actual records of people's installed service lines, and from the inventories that we've done. We've never come across lead service lines. That doesn't mean that we're not going to try and get as much information as we can so that we know that for certain. So currently, as of the end of March, we have some figures on where we're at. We have 11,009 lines, so that's just existing conditions. And so far, since we've started this work late last year, we've done review of materials on 7,695 of the lines. We have 3,314 unknown lines that still need to be identified. So the way we're doing this is we're reviewing our records. We have a lot of historical records of the service lines, but there are gaps in the data. It's really important that we have the community complete online surveys that we've handed out and that we've been telling folks to do. And then on top of this, we also have in-person inspections. So we'll be able to do, it's not like we can go to every house, but we're gonna pinpoint the higher risk, like older houses or lines that we know have unknown service materials. So a little step through the timeline here. We started the outreach in November of 2023. And since then, we've been contacting the priority properties, and that's really like the areas that have older houses. and we've been compiling those responses. So from December through June, we're going to be continuing to pinpoint those and target people that need the extra outreach, because we want to make sure that we're compliant, especially in areas of higher risk. Like, for example, if it's after the lead ban, we're not as concerned about those people. And yeah, so starting in June, we're going to be doing a little bit more door-to-door and getting a little bit more on the street. We actually have hired a temp that's helping us, and we're going to be, during the summer when, for example, college kids are out, we're going to be staffing up even more, because we really want to make sure this gets done and needs to get done by October. So I think we're in good shape, but we're definitely taking it seriously. So yeah, October is the deadline this year, and after that we'll be letting the public know, providing a map that hopefully is, we're planning on maybe making something interactive so everyone can see their own service line and what the material is. Next slide, please. Yep, so here's just a list of all the outreach that we're doing and means of getting to folks. This is definitely an important one. We're getting our, we have a good website, so you can go there and it answers FAQs, but I don't need to go through all this unless you want me to. Next slide, please.
It is available in our meeting minutes, so you can review later if you think of a question later. Sorry.
Yeah, I think this slide's kind of interesting. So here's wards 2 and 3 highlighted. We have some good participation, but we really want to get those numbers up higher. So we have Ward 2 is at 46 participants, Ward 3 is at 72. The sum throughout the cities at, we're getting close to 1,000, just under 1,000, or 910. And yeah, lots of copper, a few galvanized, some plastic pipes. And there are a fair number of unknowns, but I think that number gives us an opportunity to target folks that we need to. Thank you, and let me know if you have any questions.
Is the category of galvanized, does that essentially mean that you've got a steel pipe, Martin? Is that what that?
Yeah, the galvanized is like
steel.
It's a steel galvanized pipe. Yeah,
And
older style.
Is that a safer material than the other alternative? At least, certainly than copper and lead, I guess, right?
Oh, well, copper's okay. So it's called the lead and copper rule, but we're really not concerned. We don't have high levels of copper in our drinking water. Okay. It's really the lead that we're concerned about. And galvanized is certainly much safer than a lead pipe, but it's probably the worst out of all the other it's an old pipe. We're more concerned about those pipes breaking. But I will get it, there is kind of a caveat to that. So if there ever was a lead pipe installed that was upstream of a galvanized pipe, that galvanized pipe will then be identified as galvanized that needs to be replaced. So we're keeping track of that if we find any of that.
And if the city replaces a line in the last 20 or 25 years, what would they have used for material?
Most of the time copper, and more recent years it's plastic. Okay. So maybe in the last 10 years it would be plastic, yeah.
Okay. 2 questions. Is there an inventory, or has the water department already addressed the materials between the main and the property lines? So what precedes what you're asking us to take a look at?
Yeah, if we, let me know if I'm not answering this correctly. So
he said it's called a lateral.
Yeah, so it's a lateral water service line, and that's what we're really doing the inventory on. That line that's starts at the water main and goes all the way into the house. And it, for us, it really stops at the meter inside the house. So it goes into the house for a few feet, and then it goes to the meter. And the best we can do for now, It's either looking at records or looking at that pipe that's coming right out of the basement floor before it goes to the meter and identifying what that pipe is. And that's what we're asking in the inventory that we want folks to go in. We have you can just do it on your phone. You take a photo and you click a few buttons and it's done. It takes 5 minutes or less to do.
So to confirm, that piece of metal piping that comes from the wall, in our case, to the meter is what we would see underneath the ground between the edge of our property and the main line. Is that correct?
Yes, but since it is buried, I mean, there is sometimes the chance where you could have a different pipe that's from the water main to your, we call it a curb stop valve, that's like close to the sidewalk. And then the certainty becomes much higher, but we can't ever say with 100% certainty. Okay. We know. And so if we ever come into a situation where we have an unknown pipe in the future, not at this point, we may have to do some potholing or excavation work to find out.
And then my second question is, I know you have to do this for the EPA. What do you intend to do with the results generally? And is there funding for that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think the fact that we don't expect to find any lead pipes would, I would go out on a limb and say if we found someone that had lead, we would immediately get rid of that.
Immediate abate it.
Yeah. But in terms of the other, if we find any pipes that are categorized as either unknowns or galvanized needing replacement, that we couldn't say for certain if it's a lead impact, and if we're not seeing a high risk, we still may put it on a high priority, but we'd be looking for state funds to help out with that, because I think there is funding that's available to help. It's just we're not at that stage. That's kind of like after October, we then need to think about what that next phase will be. And we are more fortunate than many other communities in the country. There's other communities where lead was really a very typical line that was installed.
All right, we have time for one or two more questions, and we have one back here.
Hi, I wanted to know who you're asking to furnish the information.
Yes, so
The landlord or the tenants, in other words? My
Yeah.
street, I think, is all tenants and no landlords.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think the landlord really should be the one that we'd like to put the onus on. But at the same time, I think we would be perfectly happy with someone that's a tenant going down and getting that information to us.
And is there a way for a tenant to find out if the landlord has had it looked at yet? If you know what I mean?
Yeah, so I think that would be a good question, probably like to contact our customer care department, because they would have this 900-person list, and that might be something that we'd be able to go in and check, or provide you the information that we have available for that water service.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Great questions. All right, one more question.
Did you all talk to the Rental Housing Code Enforcement Division about partnering for them to do inventory when they're in buildings?
Yes, we did. I would have to check on the status of that. I know that I can say for certainty that our water meter team is, every time they're doing like a regular job, they're certainly getting the inventory data. We did meet with code, and I just can't speak to the current status of whether they're completing those surveys in the houses.
All right.
Actually, one last question. So is this project that you're working on right now, is it completely funded by water rates? Or where's the funding come from for this project?
Yeah. So the temp employees, I think those are the sole individuals that would be getting outside funding. Otherwise, time that regular staff is putting towards this is most likely going to be just out of our regular budget. So that's why we're asking for the help, because I think it is something that's manageable right now, and we're fortunate that we do have the temps that are going to be getting some outside funding to support, but it is also being absorbed partly by regular staff hours.
All right. Well, thank you for the presentation and the updates, and thank you for the questions. That's all we have time for. I have 3 quick announcements before we close up today's meeting, so thank you for your attention. First is that I am happy to announce that for both Wards 2 and 3, the budget has passed. So thank you everyone for participating in that. Second, if there is a lovely volunteer who would like to take out the trash on their way out, that would be greatly supported. And then finally, I saved the second most exciting for last, which is our raffle winner for today. Wes, you can pick. Hopefully they're here. All right. Erica, you are our winner. I don't know what you win, though. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to our presenters and for all of